contacting us. I am Sergio Fabbrini, I'm now the chair of this panel. We have a discussion on trends in the world order, continuity and change, and we will be very happy to have your opinion on the role that Italy might play in the new international system. We understand fully the situation in which you are now, and we have not much time for us, but thanks again for finding a way of contacting and talking with us. So I would give you the voice immediately if you can speak to us and say what's role for Italy in this changing world.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm really sorry that can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Yes. I'm sorry that first we had to organize a video conference, and then due to the time we just had to stick to a telephone call. I'm really sorry about that, but I know a little bit about the work. I've been informed of your discussions today. I'm just coming out of the Foreign Affairs Council in Brussels, and I imagine you might be interested in knowing a little bit what the conclusions of what stage the international discussion is around Ukraine, but not only Ukraine. I might take a few minutes on that. My impression is that we are at a stage of international relations where we have at the same time to try and de-escalate the crisis that could generate a real civil war, with a destabilizing effect on our area that can have very serious consequences in the immediate term. So our first concern is to de-escalate of the violences, to try and restore a little minimum standard of trust, of mutual trust between Ukraine and its neighbors. We could discuss probably a long time on how to get to this situation, which was a mistake done, but the reality now is to find a way of stopping the violences and reopening a channel of dialogue. For this, today at the Council, we decided to support, we give all our support to the OSCE attempt. They have presented a roadmap to relaunch the Geneva process, the agreement of Geneva 17th of April, and we put all our efforts to support that kind of initiative. The second challenge we have is a little bit more long-term stage the discussion among ourselves, Europeans also, and Europeans and Americans, on what kind of relation we foresee to have with Russia. I think that the discussion is taking the way of an exchange of views between those that think that Russia is already lost, and that we cannot expect and that we cannot expect anything good coming from the partnership with Russia, and others, and Italy among them, that believe that the annexation of Crimea was a terrible break of international principles and laws, a terrible mistake from the Russian Federation, that we should work and try to take Russia back to play a responsible role in the international community, and that the partnership is the argument at which we should aim and which we're trying to hold Russia to its responsible role in the international community. Obviously, this is not for now, it is not immediate, but we believe that there is no alternative, first of all, for Ukraine, rather than finding ways of living together with both neighbors, which is also our neighbor. This brings me to the other elements of the scenario. We believe that the partnership with Russia is also for dealing with the crisis of the environment, starting from Syria, very shadowed by the crisis in Ukraine, but still extremely worrying. Also the humanitarian aspect, and then also because the political path of discussion seems to be completely frustrated. We are not moving forward, and we should find new ways of revitalizing the political process for solving the conflict there. 3 years is not getting any better, rather worse, and we're going to have a meeting in London on Thursday in the format of the London 11 to try and see how we can revitalize the political process there. If you go around the Mediterranean, which is our immediate neighborhood, you see situations, you don't see positive situations, are basically Lebanon that is by miracle standing among difficulties, and Tunisia that we should support much more, as it's really the only success story that we can tell at the time being. For the rest, Middle East peace process, the post-pandemic, we've been discussing that also today in the Council. How should we work towards the reopening of the talks? I think it is essential that we respect the will of the Americans to wait and see if the talks can restart in time without preconditions. Still, I believe that the European Union at a certain time should play a more political role in managing the crisis. And in Libya, we need definitely an effort that is more relevant than the one that has been so far. We just got the news of a new tragedy at sea, close to Lampedusa, another one yesterday, close to the Syrian coast. It is quite evident that no matter what Italy can do to solve the issue of saving life at sea, Italy alone will never be enough, and we need to put together the efforts in terms of European member states, in terms of supporting the constitution of real government in Libya that can be a partner for a respectful of human rights management of the flow, and in the long term need to work on the prevention of the crises and conflicts that are making so many people fleeing from basically Africa and the areas of the Mediterranean and the Middle East.
Thanks, Minister. I understand that you are in the way to the airport for going to DC. Just if you want to say some words on your agenda for the Italian presidency of the semester regarding foreign policy.
Yes, our first priority will be to accompany in the smoothest way the institutional transition that will take place at the level of the European institutions. It is a challenge. It is also a good opportunity because we are starting a new mandate in the European Parliament. At the same time, a new European Commission, a new Council. We see it as a challenge in terms of finding a balance between keeping a political outcome of the European elections. We have to recognize the will of the voters and try to respect it in terms of indicating the President of the Commission that it responds to the result of the elections, and at the same time avoid having months and months of endless discussions about the institutional settings. We have to help the institutions to find the right balance of that. Coming to the priorities on foreign policy, our main one will be to avoid this issue of Ukraine shadowing Mediterranean and Middle East. Obviously, we will have to see at what stage the Ukrainian crisis will be when we take our presidency on the 1st of July. I believe that the Italian presidency could be, if the conditions from the ground were permitted to do so, to work on re-establishing or finding ways of re-establishing a partnership with Russia. I think there is a potential there. Obviously, there has to be the conditions on the ground to do so. And this is something we will check only once we get closer to the presidency. We will focus a lot on the Balkans, ensuring that the European part of the Western Balkan countries goes on a roadmap that can proceed with concrete steps and no further delays. Each country is very different and at different stages, but each of them can go on with concrete steps on the way of the EU path, and we will work on that as well as we will on the European steps for Turkey. We think that in Turkey has European interest to develop that path even more. We will for sure focus on, as I mentioned, the dimension of the Mediterranean, not only in terms of migration and asylum policies, but also in terms of mainly in terms of supporting the processes of institution building around the Mediterranean. I mentioned Libya. I think the main responsibility is in their hands, but our presidency can do a lot to support the process, an internal process if it starts on the right track. We will do our part to, together with the United States, make sure that the peace process talks start again, if that is not the case before the beginning of our presidency. And on Syria, I believe that at a certain time, maybe after July, when hopefully the agreement on the Iranian nuclear will become definitive, there might be need for a serious thinking of the way that we go with all regional actors in the management of the conflict in Syria. But these are all issues that we will put on the political agenda during our presidency. It's quite big and ambitious. It's obviously mainly political issues. Being a transition presidency, it's quite likely that we won't have concrete dossiers closed. But some political elements that we can contribute with for opening a new phase in the European political approach. I keep here all the aspects related to the economic policies because you asked me directly about foreign policy because I think that is more of interest for you. But obviously all the main objective of the presidency will be trying to reshape the European Union approach in terms of strategy for growth and creation of youth employment. So this is less of a foreign policy and more of an internal one. As you said, and last but not least, two issues. One is linked to Expo 2016. We will have the core mission of working on the content part of the Talent Expo. We launched last week together with Bank and all the heads of the UN agencies in Rome, the UN System Participant Expo, as the title of Expo, Feeding the Planet, constitutes a major foreign policy challenge for Italy and also for the rest of the world, let's say. And we will work on that, the UN system, with NGOs, with think tanks, all those that have confidence on the content of Expo. And
please.
you hear me?
Yes.
And, yeah, sorry, I lost you for a while. We go on with transatlantic relations. You know, it is additionally a key element of the Italian foreign policy. We know that it will be probably possible to close the negotiations for the TTIP during our semester, but we will take our best to make the negotiations proceed in the most effective way. And concerning that, I'm just now arriving on the plane.
Yes.
That brings me to Washington, so I guess that is the closing of a high level and brief and logistically not perfect contribution to your debate.
No, we appreciate a lot. Thanks very much, Mrs. Minister, for giving us your time. Best wishes by all the participants of the conference, and have a safe trip.